Jamahal Hill is the champion of the world. Has that set in? And the only thing about Jamahal that I'm appreciating even more than Jamahal, I loved him the day I first saw him. I remember the day I first saw him. This has been a great week for Jamahal. I mean, Jamahal is doing more interviews. He's being more interesting. He's been called out and he's doing call-outs back. I've seen his face, whether it was on social media or the great Ariel Helwani, whatever it is, I've discussed him more myself than I did leading in to a main event of a pay-per-view. It just doesn't work that way. An event will end. And in the 4 or 5 days next, whoever was part of that event that managed to stay in the headlines, that's the winner. That's who won from that event in front of everybody else. That's whose stock went up. So what Conor McGregor always did so well is when everybody else quit, he kept those next 96 hours going. It's what Paddy the Baddy has done so well. It is what Khamzat Chimaev has done so well. And I'll just share with you, Hill's been great. And I love his story, which I didn't know. I did not know that he was a junior college basketball player. I didn't know that. His fourth fight in was, I guess, a main event or a title fight because it was scheduled for 5 rounds and went all 5 rounds. I mean, this is a lot to ask of a guy. And now he knows that he's being looked at. And he's fielding, he's deflecting offers or challenges coming from all sides. Right? Yuri Prochazka is right in his face. And the only problem that any of us have with Prochazka, like we would all admit of Prochazka, of course. We would all admit that. So would Jamahal and so would the UFC. Our problem is we don't know if Prochazka can actually make the date. The last we were told about Prochazka is that he has the worst shoulder injury we have ever seen. Now, it is more than obvious that was misdiagnosed. But until we, the audience, are told that, we just don't know if we can get behind the Prochazka idea. Fair enough, because there's another great one from Pereira. Now, Alex Pereira versus Jamahal, not only does that work because of the Glover Anthony Smith, not only does it just work because of that tie-in, it would also give you the potential for Jamahal to either steal the shine of Pereira, in which case whatever Jamahal did after that would be a much bigger deal, or for Pereira to be set up to go head-to-head with Prochazka. Great. It doesn't solve all of our problems, but it's a little bit of a strategy and a plan, and we can all start to see it. So Pereira is now dangling this idea to Jamahal. Jamahal said he was going to knock somebody out. I think it was Yuri. He's going to knock somebody out. And Pereira stepped in and said, "You want to try to knock me out?" Jamahal said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I just as soon knock you out." It was great. Everything here is great. I will just tell you, for me, as a guy that's sitting on the outside and then trying to predict where we're going to go, one mistake that gets made, and it gets made often, is what's called starting and stopping. If you start and stop a guy, you're only going to do the yin and yang with the audience so many times. Some guy, you got one shot for some guys. You got 3 or 4, but everybody has a limit. And the WWE, just by example, in their down years, if you go study their down years, one thing that you will find in those down years, more than you found in the up years, was the starting and stopping of stars. It's a big deal. A number of years ago, they bring Chris Jericho in, who is a bona fide star. They bring him in the office and they tell him on a Monday Night Raw they want him to put Kofi over. And Jericho says, "I'll do it." He's younger, he's newer, whatever the situation, but you need me. It's going to bring me down. If I get pinned 1, 2, 3 clean by Kofi, it's going to bring me down. But if it sends him up in equal or greater amount, that's what this industry is about. Somebody's done that for me, and if tonight's the moment that I'm asked, I will do it for him if you promise me you're not going to start him and then stop him. If I go and do the job, right, it's a big deal for Jericho. Not only was he a massive star, if anyone ever did beat Jericho, they were huge. Kofi was the same size or smaller. This was a big ass to let Kofi not only pin him, but pin him clean. Big deal. And Jericho said, I'll do it. But he said, if 3 weeks from now, I'm still down because I got pinned by him, and now you're pulling him down, and this is all worth nothing, I don't want to do it. And they assured him, no. We're getting behind him. We've got the data. We got the number. The merchandise is ordered. This guy's going to be a star. He's just got to pin you tonight. Okay. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, they pulled it from Kofi. Now, they brought Chris down who had to build himself back up and wasn't quite as agreeable to do a JOB on the way out in the future. And it's a massive mistake when you're starting and stopping. I say that because the guy who's trying to predict, we already had the start. If you want to do Pierre and you want to do Jamal, they were in the cage together 4 nights ago. There's a still photo with Glover beaten, totally beaten down, and Jamal in a victorious moment with Pereira, who loves Glover, turning and putting a very stern eye on Jamal. It was great. It was great. I feel like I just had to describe that photo for you guys, though, because I'm not sure that you've seen it. It's already gone. It's already buried. It was a great strike. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, that was our press release for this fight. Nobody's done anything with it. So that would be what we call start and stopping. So now these fighters have now called each other out on social media. The problem was Jamal put half of his ammo going towards Yuri, so he only had half the troops to go at Pereira, and Pereira put half his troops on Robert Whittaker. So he only got half the army to come, right? It was just one of these things, and we can all get behind it, but you can't start and stop. You can't start and then pull back. You got one crack at it, and when you pull back, we cannot go down that road, would be my prediction. It would be my prediction. And Pierre only has to do one thing, which is announce that he's not returning. That's it. I'm not returning 185 pounds. What difference would that be? I mean, Jon Jones did it. He did it 3 years ago, but he did it. His next fight's going to be up a weight class for a world title. Okay. Yuri Prochazka did this 35 days ago. Gave the belt back, wants to come back, go fight for the belt. I mean, it's one of those things. What's the big deal? If we're going to do that, though, we can't have half our troops at Robert Whittaker, half our troops over 205 pounds. We got to pick one. And if you start and stop and you do that to the audience, we're not coming back. You're going to lose them. It's a huge mistake. So you guys get this figured out. Are we running with that photograph? Are we going to do something with the challenge? Are we vacating 185 pounds? Are we going to do this or not? It's between you guys, but make your mind up. And if you try to go back and forth with your audience's emotion, all you're going to do is separate them. Jamal only had half of his army to come after Pierre because he already sent the army the opposite direction. Do you understand that? Pereira, who calls out Hill, that's a massive deal. But he had half of his army going in a different direction because he sent them west after Robert Whittaker. Make up your mind. Don't start and stop. Pick a direction. Go all in. You're a champion. Champions do what champions want. Now we have 2 champions. You're not helping each other look strong. If you come after each other and you can't figure out behind the scenes how to get in there, you look weak.